What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about, you guessed it, Warhammer 40k. So yesterday I did a poll on none other than the Emperor of Mankind. Now this poll could be seen as heresy, but hear me out before you tell your local inquisitor. I asked you guys, do you believe that the Emperor of Humanity will bring hope or ruin to mankind? And no surprise, the results said that you guys thought that he is a good guy. He's essentially going to bring hope to humanity, and the Emperor is the best guy ever that ever was. Now that's not 100% the case. So before you guys solidify your answer, let's go over the intricacies behind this question. So the reason as to why I'm asking if you believe that the Emperor is essentially a good guy, the bringer of hope, or a bad guy, the bringer of despair and a slow decay to humanity, is because when you look at the Emperor, he's not 100% perfect. He's not this omnipotent god that is all good or all evil. He is flawed just like humanity. However, his big thing is to guide humanity to prosper. And because of this, his life, I guess you can say, could be split into 4 stages or 4 phases, whatever you want to call it. So the first stage or phase is one that I call the guide phase. And this is where the Emperor kind of sits back and just watches humanity from the shadows. Not really pushing them in one direction or another, but still kind of helping turn the sail of the boat that is humanity, kind of. So during this time, he was notable people of influence and power in the age where humanity was just beginning to prosper. So if the real world, here and now, ends up becoming, what 40k is, the Emperor is probably somewhere in like world government or a celebrity or something of that sort, where you could kind of influence humanity, but not outright guide it in one direction. So during this time, the Emperor is just kind of sitting back amongst his people, amongst humans. And throughout the years, he changes from one person to another, and then we finally get to the second stage, because humanity began kind of showing the Emperor that they weren't capable of leading themselves. Humanity tends to fight a lot with one another because of differences, and that's just something that humans do. They find something that pits us against them, and then they go to war. Whether it's religion, racial stuff, poverty levels, like wealth and class and all this, humans are pretty shitty. But the Emperor still said, you know what? I'm gonna let humans do what they do. And eventually this led to like freaking techno-barbarians waging war against each other, a nuclear holocaust, so to speak, and it was not a good time for humanity. So at this point, humans were gonna kill each other off. Like they reached heights, don't get me wrong. Like they were creating artificial intelligence. The dark age of technology happened, where just technology boomed at an unprecedented rate. But this golden age led to an era of strife and war, and that's the second stage, or the second phase of the Emperor, where he became a warrior, a leader. And this is where he began to lead the Great Crusade, basically going across the galaxy and conquering human worlds that fell to chaos, to Xenos, or to themselves. And he basically said, these Thunder Warriors are my tools, and I'm going to bring Earth back to compliance. And he kind of did do that, but then came a better tool. That is when he created, alongside the mother of Primarchs, the Space Marines. So the the Horus heresy happened slightly after this, and the Emperor could have done things a whole slew of differences, because when the Primarchs were created, the Emperor supposedly struck a deal with chaos. He said, all right, these are what I foresee occurrences that are going to happen in the galaxy. Maybe he said, you know what, we'll split it 50-50. You guys can have 50% of the Primarchs, I'll have 50%, and we'll see what happens then. But anyway, the ruinous powers of chaos flung the Primarchs, the leaders of these Space Marine legions, all across the world, or all across galaxies, to worlds, and the Emperor basically led his crusade, liberating worlds, but also trying to get his generals, his Primarchs, his sons, so to speak, because these warriors were genetically modified and created for one purpose: to wage war and to be the best they could be. Unfortunately, the Emperor went about this all wrong. He could have easily done things differently to basically sway the hearts of his Primarchs to his side more so. Case in point, Angron. Angron was in a harsh world, basically a gladiator world, where he was tormented, and he built a strong camaraderie with his gladiator friends. Eventually they escaped these essentially fighting prisons, and they were just about to get overrun by their captors when the Emperor showed up and saved, quote-unquote, saved Angron. Angron was so pissed because the Emperor saved him when he wanted to die alongside his comrades. This resentment led to the deaths of many Space Marine captains to try to quell their Primarch, even almost killing Karn. And this anger just swelled and swelled and swelled until the only way to kind of manage it was to succumb to Khorne's embrace. Now, this could have easily been done and handled a completely different way to allow Angron to be on the Emperor's side and never harbor this anger. He could have just, told the leaders of this planet, hey, don't kill these guys, or hey, I'll take them into my, my ranks, or I'll pay you something. He could have done something different than what he did. Because imagine how well these gladiatorial fighters would have been if they became Space Marines. But that's just one instance as to where the Emperor kind of failed. And there's just time and time again that the Emperor could have done things differently to have his warriors, his generals, his Primarchs, his Space Marines to be more on his side. The whole thing with not telling his Primarchs about the Golden Throne and the Webway project, and Magnus could have been on his side, and Magnus would have been a huge help for humanity if he indeed sat on the Golden Throne, but this didn't happen. It's just a lot. I could have a whole 30-minute episode just talking about the Emperor and what he could have done better for his Primarchs to maybe have a better life for the Imperium. But anyway, the heresy happened, one can say, because of Cor Phaeron and those guys from the Word Bearers Legion, but the Emperor did have a part to play in this. Eventually, we will move on to the third phase, the time when the Emperor fell. So, the Emperor could have easily killed Horus, but he saw that he couldn't just bring himself to kill one of his sons, even though he knew that Horus was being puppeteered by the ruinous powers of chaos. And because of this, it led to Sanguinius' death and destruction, and overall the Imperium suffered greatly, and it led to the Emperor being interred on the Golden Throne. He almost died, put it simply. The Emperor should have never been weakened to that point where Malgador essentially had to give his life and use the Golden Throne as a means of life support. So now that he has fallen, he's basically been put out of commission. Yes, he's still powering the Astronomicon, and yes, he can communicate and whatnot, but He's essentially just a battery for humanity. He was at the forefront of the crusade, the betterment for the Imperium, and now he's just being used as a means for planetary governors and the High Lords to use the Emperor as a way for them to keep their own power and corruption and to spread the Imperial Creed, which, when you look at it, it's actually a chaotic doctrine by Lorgar. Like, this religion should not be practiced by the Imperium. The Emperor wanted no part of religion to be a huge part of humanity. So because of this, he kind of, I don't know, he just felt compliant to just power the Astronomicon, I guess. And because of that, he maybe, I don't know, because it's like the Emperor could still do a lot in this fallen state, this half-dead, half-alive state, because we all know that the Emperor is a perpetual. The Emperor cannot die. If he does, he gets reincarnated into something else, and that reincarnation would greatly benefit humanity. Now, if the Emperor does die, that's gonna close off the Astronomicon and open up portals and webways to friggin' demon worlds, and demons will just spew on Terra, and it's gonna be hell on Earth. Yes, but is that a necessary evil to allow the Emperor to come back and maybe help humanity in some better way than where he is now? Perhaps his whole plan was to be on the Golden Throne and to have humanity praise him so that he can achieve apotheosis and attain godhood. That is very hypocritical, since he wanted religion not to be a part of it, but he's like, you know what? I was wrong. Maybe I do need to be a god. And that's where, like, his fourth stage will begin, Rebirth. So at this point, Rebirth, like I said, could be him resurrecting himself to his prime, since he is a perpetual. It could be him being reincarnated into another body, or maybe it could just be him attaining godhood. Like, we don't know exactly where the story for the Emperor will lead to. It's all theory, it's all speculation. But all these phases in his life, like, they're lined with mistake after mistake, and these mistakes really, really cost humanity a lot. In his first stage, when he was just kind of a guide in the shadows, he could have easily done things to prevent, like, the AI rebellion from happening, to prevent the Reign of Fire from, like, Goj Vandire. Like, there's just so much that he could have done. The whole techno-barbarians almost killing each other off and ending humanity then and there. When he was leading the Great Crusade, he knew that he should have listened to the Primarchs more, but to him, they were just tools to be discarded. It's just, in my opinion, he is flawed. He's not this omnipotent being that should be praised, you know. He's kind of like humanity himself. Like, he himself is a human that has been granted these powers. I mean, he needs 1,000 shamans, 1,000 psychers just to keep himself alive. And, like, they call him the Carrion Lord for a reason, because he's just a bunch of decomposing skin right now. Like, he's in this half-dead state, and, like, yes, people praise and use him as a means to attain hope, but is this hope worth it when you could say everything that has happened to humanity is his fault? He seems to have some type of foresight to see into the future, to know how events will play out. Why is he choosing to do it this way? It's just something to ponder. So, with everything that I've said, let me know down below in the comments, where do you stand on the Emperor and his ways? Is he a beacon of hope, or is he just a flame that will extinguish all hope for humanity? Let me know. I can't wait to read your responses. And that's it. That's all I got for today, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the video, spending time here with us. If you guys want us to keep doing more of these 40K videos, head on over to our Patreon page. A simple $1 a month will help us do just that. If not, subscribe, hit that like button, And if not, then at least you made it to this part of the video. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'm signing out. Peace.